was
About dark.
when it
I got
started.
home, about 9.
Yeah.
I could hear the driveway.
Oh man, it had rained. It sounded like it hailed at the house. I don't know if it did or not. I'll call this meeting of the Carroll County Public Service Authority to order. And I'll ask Mr. Moore if he'll lead us in a pledge and a prayer, please.
Absolutely. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity you've given us to be here, Lord. And please be with each and every one as make decisions, for the future of our county, Lord. And thank you for the blessings you bestowed upon us, Lord. And please put a hedge around the ones that are suffering right now with losing loved ones. It seems like a lot in the community have over the last couple of weeks. And just be with them, comfort them, give them strength, Lord. In Jesus' precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank everybody for being here this evening. Hope everybody's had a good day. We'll move right on along. Next item we had was citizens' time, and it doesn't appear there's anybody here for citizens' time. Next is the consent agenda, and I'm looking for a motion for approvals of section A, B, and C.
I move we accept the consent agenda, sections A, B, and C.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Anyone have any discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll start the voting with you, Mr. Jessup.
Yes.
Mr. McCraw.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Moore. Dr. Littrell.
Yes.
I vote yes. Next item is new business, and it's Arpa Funds, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Watson.
All right. I just had a few items I wanted to bring up. I'm going to also bring it up this evening in the Board of Supervisors meeting. Just to let you know, we did get our quote on the flow study, and they have to. Seemed like it was a little expensive when I first opened it. One of the issues is however, they have to rent a meter that will be able to be used in order to do the flows. It is required to do this flow study based on the consent order that we'll have finished and approved in the next, well, they have to have a public hearing still and those type of things, but we're trying to get a jump on it. Hopefully this will tell us some of the issue. Also, later on down the road, we're going to end up having to look at the plant to see how we fix the issue. It could be a small fix, could be a big fix, not exactly sure. Once we get this approved, we'll go ahead and start it, the flow study. That way we can get a report back to you, back to DEQ, and try to head off some of these problems. Also, I'm going to back up a little bit. Over the last few months, we've discussed different things that need to be done throughout the system. We've had some issues with Exit 1 sewer. We need some more customers, connections. Also, communication, our SCADA. A lot of it's got a lot of issues. So what I'm going to request is to go ahead and start getting some costs. We're going to go ahead and do it in-house, start getting some costs, see the direction we need to go. And hopefully start this process pretty soon. We're going to do a flow study. We're also beginning the process of working up the paperwork in order to do some water and sewer grants as far as connections. We're going to put together a form, an application, some of the requirements that will be required. We're not going to base it on income. We're going to base it on availability. Try to get our customer base up some. We need both customers in water and sewer. SCADA, there's two ways to approach it. We're going to do some research on how to approach it. We're going to do an actual design or contract with, advertise out, do the bidding process, and get some quotes on companies' experience and how they do SCADA. I've seen do it in both ways. You can advertise for the experience and have someone come in and work on a basis, like a fee basis, and try to help connect it all together. Or you can hire an engineering firm to come in and design it from scratch, and then you bid it out for the same SCADA group that does the SCADA work to come in and actually install it. So we're going to investigate that. Most likely, we're going to look at finding a firm that does this type of work and work toward getting it connected. A lot of our SCADA, a lot of our wells, a lot of our, there's a lot better way to monitor. Right now, we spend 2 to 4 hours on the weekends, I think it's on Saturday and Sunday, visiting wells and looking at them and maintain them on the weekends, which, unfortunately, right now, if something happens, till somebody shows up, you don't know what's happening. So you might have a pump kick off and an overflow, or you might have a leak until a customer finds out they don't have any water before you can. So there should be some better ways of doing this.
Who was awarded the flow study?
Hurt and profit. We just, to be honest with you, we felt like they hadn't done the work at the sewer plant. We wanted an outside look at it. So, and it will be, we're going to use I sent the 2 contracts we got back out on the engineering groups today. Still have one more that hasn't responded. We're going to go through them and make sure there's nothing out of the ordinary and begin that process. But this is on a fee basis. This is not an hourly rate. So,
I personally, I think we're better off bypassing the engineering firm on the SCADA if we can. That's a lot of excess money that's spent for.
Yeah.
You still have to go back and get somebody to decide to tell you what to do it for you. So
that's correct.
When I worked at Christiansburg for a town of them, they put a SCADA system in, and the people up at Rocky Gap put it in, and it's all RF link instead of cellular.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a whole lot cheaper to go that way than it was cellular at the time. It's just radios talking back to certain spots.
Oh, hopefully one thing we can look at is maybe an offering up to a wireless company to put some of their utilities on it, and we could probably work some of this by Wi-Fi, working off them without a monthly fee.
yeah,
Problem with cellular is you're paying, a monthly rate on this when you can either use the 2-way radios or you can use internet.
On the 2-way radios, after you put them in, they ain't no fee. Period.
Yeah.
Dana, who was it that done the SCADA for the last upgrade? Do you remember who? We worked with them, but I can't remember who.
We have 3 now.
The one
We have
that
3 different ones. We have Lord and Company is one of them. Diversified was the other one, and we have Synopsis.
I was thinking about who the person that installed the one at the foot of Fattest Hill. I can't remember who it was. It was a local person, but I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I think that was us.
AMR
Dillon?
does regional.
Yeah, Brian Dillon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regional water, if you ever want to go out to the plant in Austinville, they just recently updated all their SCADA equipment. And, their programming and their screen, they have it up on the screen in the area. You can go in and look at it. That company was AMR out of Rocky Gap.
Ain't that who you're talking about, Gary?
Yeah, and the good thing about it, on that screen, it'll show you what the amperage of every motor's pulling, every pump motor, everything like that. And it puts out there what it's supposed to pull, and then if it's up, alarm's going off, and
Yes.
you can pinpoint which pump it is just from one point. And it worked good. Christiansburg's still using it because I put another antenna site in for them the other day, the RF side of it. It works good. And every site we got, I think, will hit Beamer's knob.
Oh, okay.
So,
How many sites do we have?
Everything on how many sites do you have?
That we're going to try to SCADA.
Well, of course, where we need, we have SCADA now, you know, on all the regional.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have anything in Cana. Except when we do,
Cana may not hit Beamer's Knob because Beamer's Knob's out over Cana. Cana's tucked under it.
Eventually, you'd want to have all your well sites and then even tie your sewer into it too.
Yeah.
If you're going to do this, you need your pump stations. You know, you can turn pumps on. You can monitor the chlorine injections that you're putting into it.
You monitor everything.
You can monitor just about everything. You turn
You can total
pumps on.
control it,
and-
yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing, and hopefully, once we get to the process, you'll have someone that can monitor it on the weekends on a phone and get notifications and those type things. You can even set it for.
They got one man goes to the main pump station and over there, and he looks at every site on a screen. And if anything's red, he figures out why it's red.
Yeah.
we got right at 40 sites, Tracy.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That is a lot.
How many of them could we monitor the injection and stuff?
We got 5 wells. That's 6 wells you could do.
Then a lot of them just hand add and
Well, a lot of this will turn into what Regional Water is doing is it converts it into a spreadsheet. So it data logs this information also. So if you have, you know, it can tell you, you know, they even can monitor their chemicals. They'll know if you're, you know, if you're adding chemicals, taking chemicals out, if you're, you know, how much you're injecting into the system, tell you how fast the pumps are running. And so, I mean, there's a lot of data we miss because of it.
See, all our well sheets now, of course, same when Tracy was here, it's all, and
It'll monitor anything you want as long as you put a set of contacts to it. That's all it amounts to.
Yeah, I think the most expensive part you're going to get into is probably the software and then the communication. You know, put a PLC in or to reprogram something. I don't think that's your cost, but the initial setup is going to be. And you can design it any way you want. You can put it on 2 screens, one for water, one for sewer.
They've even got it over there. If one side, if the radio goes down, you got the spare radios. Just set it in, put it on there, what channel you need, and it's ready to go again.
Yeah, I think Dana was talking a little while earlier about the SCADA went out between Austinville and Pleasant View. So the guys stay up there till 1 o'clock in the morning watching it, you know, so.
because when it's down, pumps won't cut on, you have to cut them on by hand, you know, and I think it's probably that storm on Saturday night, and we about determined it was probably Citizens, at Austinville, we had Citizens as our provider at Austinville,
Yeah.
and I think that's who was down in it.
It was Citizens, 'cause Lightning got in the big office here in town.
Oh, okay, so that's the reason we were down.
Great, I know they sent us up there.
And say the water plant calls, because we can't see, you know,
Okay.
so then they come out and have to make sure the pump's going on and all.
I know that's it's an expense up front, but it's a savings in the long run. So.
And one other type of newer thing that we're going to look at also is, from my understanding, we're talking to Hillsville about possibly sending some sewer toward them. One of the things that we want to look at is how we're going to meter it. You know, personally, I don't like the idea of finding how it flows. A pump is, and then calculating off the time. I'd rather have some type of metering on it. Also, I'd like to do some pressure checks to make sure that when you flip that pump or start pumping another direction, don't shoot up through the middle of the road somewhere. So
Exactly.
I've had some communication with them, so we're talking every week or so about this project to see if there's a way.
You got anything else?
Well, I was just going to give you an update on a few things that we're looking at as we go along. We're evaluating our vehicles right now for the PSA. Just to let you know, we have 3 vehicles with over 200,000 miles on it, 4 vehicles between 150 and 200,000 miles on, and two vehicles that's been assigned to surplus. I think this board approved it a long time back. So I just want to give you an update on the vehicles and trying to figure out what needs replaced and how it needs to be replaced and with what. From my understanding, our construction side, I call it, it's pretty good. Their vehicles aren't real bad, but some of these aren't starting and having some real issues. So we're going to evaluate those and look at them. Also, one thing that I want just y'all to think about it's not something today, it's not something next few months. I like to have the discussion sometime down the road about pressure reducers. Right now, when we do a tap, we install pressure reducers. They're county owned, and we go out and check them constantly.
No.
I mean, replace them, and you understand, okay? That is a lot of our call-out service type things. When a person's pressure's down or the tanks are lower, then the pressure drops or it goes out. We need to work on a process over the next, I'm gonna say the next year or so, to get people to understanding that we no longer own pressure reducers. We can order them, we can get them cheap. When I say cheap, you can buy them from us. We can buy good ones that work off 300 PSI at a better price than what you can get at a normal home place. Okay, if you just go to Lowe's or and they're a higher quality. We just need to get away from owning pressure reducers.
Yes, definitely. That
So-
is something we do not need to do.
Well, where do we have them at? In the ground or in the person's house?
We put them at the meter.
Either.
And you can put them, there's no problem with having them on the customer side of it. But on the older lines, you probably want them at the meter. On the newer homes, you want them in the house. And it's a constant maintenance, it's the constant expense, every time somebody calls and says their pressure is low, send somebody out, clean a screen. You can imagine how much that
That's
goes on.
something we need to definitely get rid of. I mean, it's just not.
And it might be
I actually
something-
don't believe I knew that.
Well, it's one of those things that we need to weed it out, let people know, start a process. They're all new ones that come in. We don't own them. And start transferring all the ones that we do own over to, and it might mean we have to spend some money as far as replacing some of them prior to doing it. But that one-time expense is going to be a lot cheaper this time than it will be 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and those type of things.
It may even be the best thing to do is we start having, like, if we get a call on one, we go out and replace it, and then tell them then that it's theirs from then on. Let them take care of it.
I think probably what brought it on now this is just me thinking, I don't know, but probably when the PSA started installing meters, I don't think it was in the code, the building code probably.
Yeah,
That homeowners had to install.
and it is now.
Yes.
It is
I-
now.
I don't know if that's why that started, but that would be maybe my thinking it. Maybe they probably had it like that. I don't know.
I called the city of Galax the other day. We had one that had a 170 PSI coming into the house, and I called the guy, which I know him really well, and I said, Mike, I got this house over here, and it's got 170 PSI on the water line. He said, what do you want me to do about it? I mean, he said, go get a new pressure reducer. He said, they sell them at Merritt's, it'll handle up to that. So, it's just, that's what we're going to have to start doing. I mean,
There ain't nothing in the laws and all as far as how much you can send the customer.
Normally, we use ours mainly a gravity system. I couldn't imagine that we even got 175 pressure anywhere.
this was on a line. He knew it was like that. He said, we've had that problem on that line all the time.
See, we won't allow them, we make them sign a waiver if we set it for more than 50.
Definitely.
Is what we make them, if they have us come out and up it, we make them sign a waiver for anything over 50 PSI. But there's probably, you know, some of those that's on our larger lines that are gonna have some pressure.
Mm-hmm. There's two of them at my office up there.
Really?
One at the meter and one inside. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to know how much pressure you think we got. Wait.
Go down on little lines, some in places I think.
Little vinyl rock fire truck when you're loading it.
Yeah, I'd say,
It'll sit there and do that.
Really?
How much?
I'd say around 3.
Oh, yeah,
how much
300.
is on?
Yeah, that part of the industrial park's got 300 PSI.
You wouldn't need a pressure washer.
Nuh-uh.
That would be my fear on some of them, you know. Can you actually do that and legally send them that much?
I've never read anywhere where it says you can't send them whatever, you know?
Right.
I think that's why the building code come around and started making you, requiring them,
Right.
you know, as part of the building code, but, you know.
I think if we did do that, we needed to make sure that the customer put them in and they were checked before it was turned on.
Yeah, the toilet valves, you know, they won't withstand that. There's no way they'll
No.
withstand that, so.
And it might be we have to put, you know, if you're doing 300 PSI going to dust, there might be a desire to add, you know, but you would think it would, unless you're pumping up to the tank and feeding off of where they're pumping it up there. Because that tank's right above the,
Mm-hmm.
so if it's gravity feeding off of it, you know, there's no way to get that pressure. But if you're pumping up
Yeah.
to that tank, then yeah.
Well, if you're gravity feeding on a 6-inch line, or let's say, just for instance, and you're going down to a 3/4 at some point, you're increasing some pressure quite a bit.
Serious pressure.
Where is the thing, excuse me,
Go ahead.
where is it located so that the homeowner could change it? Is it at a street or?
Some
Some
of 'em are like
places
right
it's at
there,
the
so-
street. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you know, some places it's right there where it comes into the house. It's right there. before it
Should
goes.
be located somewhere where they could, if there's going to be changing it, where it'd be accessible to them, you know?
Well, I have a house here in Hillsville, and I don't have one at the meter, but I have one in the house.
Mhm.
So,
And that's how it should be.
Where that house is, you better have one in the house.
yeah.
And that brings up a good point. There might be, you know, if you're filling the tank and you're pumping to it and you've got that pressure, you might need to figure out certain places in line to put a, you know, 300 PSI in our water lines. You know, you get into putting a plastic line in and,
Mhm.
you know, so you might want to start putting in certain areas, depending on where your pressures are. A commercial, like a PSA-owned pressure reducer,
Pressure
reduces it all the way, puts it down to 100 PSI, 120, 150, something like that that's manageable. That
And we have those, you know, out in the system, but, you know, and I'm sure it don't run constant that. I mean,
Right.
it
Yeah.
varies to that at some point. But not all areas are like that. I can think of a couple that,
It trickles.
yeah, that's high.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something we want to look at, and we'll look at it and bring it back at a later time, just a way to do it. The other thing I pretty much touched on was old business, and that was the flow study at Exit 1, and we'll continue to try to fix that problem.
Nothing else. We'll start with authority members' time. We'll start with you, Mr. Moore.
I don't really have nothing. I'm just thank all the employees. I've been seeing them out working a lot, different hours, and wee hours of the night and wee hours of the morning, and just thank them for all they do, and staff, and Mike and Dana and them for putting all this stuff out there to hopefully make it better in the future. So that'd be all.
Dr. Littrell.
I don't really have anything myself. I think it's good that our staff is looking into these potential problems and trying to work out a solution before they can become big problems.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Mr. Jessup.
That water leak we had on 221 the other day, who fixed it? Our employees. And how long did it take them?
Oh,
They did it hot.
yeah. Probably about One time they called the ticket in. It really didn't take them that long to fix it once they got the ticket in, probably a couple hours.
All right, while they doing that, what happens to everything else?
They left, well, Willie's didn't, well, not Willie's, but you know, BP didn't have it and one other household didn't. We were able
No,
to
I
get-
mean, their regular jobs. If they over doing that, what happens
just
to their
get
regular
behind.
jobs?
They just, that comes first, so.
Well, why didn't we get a contractor to fix it if it had to be fixed hot?
Money.
Balance out the same one. They gotta go back and catch up on their jobs then.
Well, right now, I mean, you know, you pay a contractor to dig it out. It was a banding,
Yeah.
okay? Plus, a call had to be made whether or not you shut Mohawk down in order to fix it. Staff, they contacted Mohawk and asked them how long they was going to be out. We was hoping we get it fixed in an hour. You know, by the time my opinion is by the time you call out a contractor and hope they drop what they're doing, to come fix something, dig it out, and then our guys should be able to do it. If it's something major, then you might call out a contractor. But you know, you take a job that a couple $100 to fix in their time,
Mhm.
or you can pay. And I don't know how much it cost. I had no idea, $1,000 for somebody else to do it. So that adds up. So hopefully we get into the process of fixing our own stuff as much as we can. So it's during normal business hour. It didn't cost any more labor. I know that we get behind, but
No, that's what worries me, getting behind.
until we can afford to hire more employees or pay contractors, we're limping through as much as we can. You know, and with overtime, they've been, our staff is doing really good to try to control the overtime. And it's impossible to do it on if something happens on a Friday evening, the way the payroll works. But we're paying a little overtime when we have to, and so hopefully some of these things will do some savings so we can save some money. And this weekend work that we're paying for now, that it's not going to. I'm going to say the skate is not going to save us money, because those hours that they are working now on the weekends, and we'll turn that over into other hours of operation. We need more work hours.
All right. The fire hydrant over at Farmer's Market, what are we gonna do?
Jeff's been over there talking with them at the farmer's market, and, what we'd like to do is put a meter in over there.
Do what?
We'd like to put a meter in over there, so.
Well, I know that, but with the leaks, what we need to get stopped. Every time they turn it on, I went over there and watched them, it's pouring out of the ground when they turn it on.
There's a 3/4 meter there that was set for the farmer's market, but it's not being used, so.
Well, they need an 1.5 inch, 2 inch hose to load that chiller with. It'd take a week to load that chiller with a 3/4 water hose.
I think that they gave them a meter so that we can
Yeah,
start
put a
meter
on it so we can
on the
start
fire
metering.
hydrant and start metering it, and then I'll check into it. I thought that was something that was being fixed.
They turned it on today and showed me, and water just boils out all the way around it. And when it cuts it out underneath, you're gonna fix it then.
Well, it's a fire plug probably. If they're cutting the valve off and it's not blowing out, then it's the hydrant. It's a fire
It's
plug.
the hydrant,
They need to
what it is.
rebuild it or put a new one in there.
Yeah.
I'll get onto it and see if they can get it done as soon as possible.
Okay, and the meter you give them just is put on the line,
Put on the meter.
It's put on the hydrant.
put on the hydrant.
Yeah.
You really think they're gonna do that? No.
They should.
Well, they're not going to, I can tell you that right now. You've been getting water free for 25 years, why would you start metering it now?
And, I don't think anybody realized that's how they was filling that hydro cooler.
They fill that thing 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
every little bit.
See, that's a cost that's not
Yeah.
shown anywhere. I don't care.
You're not tracking
we gotta
loss
pay it,
or
but
anything.
We need to know that that's a cost to the PSA.
Yeah, it's cost
I
people.
mean, if we have to fasten a meter to it somehow, we need to do that. So.
Well, we need to dig it out and fix the hydrant, that's what
Yeah.
it needs, and put the meter in the ground. so they can't control the meter,
Well,
because that's free water. No telling where else we're giving water away.
Well, that's it. We gotta pay for it. It's the board of supervisors or whatever, but
well, I wonder if an option would be, and I'm just throwing this out, take the meter out, take the hydrant out, put a meter in, and then put the hydrant on the outside of the line, so that if you take anything out of the hydrant, then it counts also, and then use a tap for it. But you got to have a valve to cut that size line off. I don't know if you want to exercise a 4-inch valve daily or 2-inch valve.
Yeah, 2 inches all that bit needed. But they use a 2.5-inch hose to load the chiller with, because I went over and looked today, because I'd go over and work on a dog warden truck, and so I just had them take me around there and show me what was going on.
Yeah, that, you could put a 2-inch meter in the ground.
Yep.
So I guess the question would be is the county going to pay for because they're the ones that getting the 2-inch meter. So I guess we need to send a bill to the county and have the county pay for the meter, the installation and stuff.
Yeah, and then it's got to fix where it'll drain back of winter time, so it won't freeze. So if our hydrant drains, and what you put in's got to drain back too.
Might be where the PSA sticks in a meter, and then county. I know we're all sitting in different chairs, but in the same chair. But it might be something where the county has to work that out.
that's legitimate expense. That's not showing on the other end. If we're using that water, or coolers or whatever.
It's not calculated into the use of the cooler, is it?
That's right.
To the use of what they use it for.
The water cost and
I mean,
the issue, what you got into, and I told them to go ahead and we're going to fix the hydrant, okay? Put 2-inch meter on, let them run it until we could figure out what we're going to do on the ground, because the hydro cooler is only used during certain times of the year.
Exactly.
So do you go through I'm wearing both hats, so you're looking at it as you spend $5,000 on something that you use 3-4 months out of the year?
Yeah, but what's worrying me, if we hook to the hydrant like of a night with a fire truck, it won't stay in the ground long when it starts pushing that water out underneath.
So the leak needs to be fixed.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. And as far as the metering, I don't see why we just don't put the meter on the hydrant like you're talking about and leave it as it is and handle it that way.
That'd be good if they'll leave it on there.
If they'll leave it, yeah, we just have to make sure they leave it on
But
there.
y'all give them a meter and it wasn't on there today. Cause I looked, you give them a meter that screws on the fire thread, right?
And were they filling the hydro cooler without the meter?
Yeah.
that's like stealing electricity.
Yeah, it's the same thing as.
I asked them where the meter was, and they said in the building.
Did we put it on the fire hydrant when we put it on?
What it is, you have to put it on once you open it up. I don't think
They
it
put
can
it
stay
on.
on there.
No, you do it just like a construction company's doing it. You put it on the hydrant and leave the hydrant on. So you can't leave that hydrant on, because it shoots water out all
Yeah.
around. That's the way that works.
That may be why they're taking it off.
Yeah.
Just not-
You're like Apex used to load over yonder. And we left the hydrant on and they had a meter on it and they loaded every morning. But you can't leave that hydrant on, so
So if the hydrant was fixed, we could leave the hydrant on and leave the meter on.
Well, no, the hydrants have weep holes in them also, so
Yeah.
that they drain out. So
Drain out, yeah.
So when you if you was to turn it on, leave the water on, then you still got the weep hole.
No.
It's not a lot.
it don't weep if it's screwed all the way up, that seals that off.
That's what, yeah,
Then when you cut it off, it runs out the weep hole.
kind of like a frost-free works.
Exactly.
A frost-free hydrant works.
And the one at Sylvatus, we ever determine if there's something wrong with it, or Greg Crowder's shop down there, you'd go get it checked on?
Yeah, Darryl looked at that one.
And
I can't remember. I think they fixed that one at
Okay.
the shop.
I'll get somebody to check
I
it
can't
then.
remember. I'll have to look at that list from the last meeting, but I think
That's all I got.
Mr. McCraw?
Well, I think if the PSA crew can repair a leak, I'm in favor of them doing it, even though it gets them behind. Save us money and keep the debt down. And I'd like to thank everybody for all the work they do, the crew, and they're not here to hear it, but I do appreciate them. And what I see, them look like they do a tremendous job. Thank you.
Mr. Hill?
I just ditto what everybody else said. We're getting there slowly but surely.
Slowly but surely. The pump that was, you answered my question in an email the other day about the pump at exit 1 that went out. Did you ever determine if it was a mechanical or electrical failure?
I think it was,
It was fine.
I think it had the trash and stuff.
I remember you saying that, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if it called, if that locked the pump up and it went out on a mechanical or if it went out on an electrical failure.
I understand. So if it overloaded and,
Yeah, there should have been protection to kick it off if it was electrical. That's the reason was questioning it. If that's the case, we need to find out why it's not kicking off.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it was done.
I think it kicked, because they pulled the pump, they cleaned it out and got it
Yeah.
to work.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
I don't think it was an electric.
all right. I don't, I mean, not,
I understand. I didn't quite understand, but now I do. I know what you're talking about now.
I just think that we've got to be very prudent in what we're doing, and I really think that our guys are doing a great job, and they've got a lot on them. The amount of workers we got and the amount of work they've got to do, it's a lot, and I do appreciate them, and I appreciate staff, and I appreciate y'all being here tonight, and that's about all I got. If nobody's got anything else, I'll ask for an adjournment, a motion for an adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
I have a motion for adjournment. Do I have a second? Second. A second. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.